Hey, happy weekend, everybody. I'm Chris Hassel. It's the last weekend without football that counts because next weekend, week 0 in college football, a handful of games that will count in the record. We also get a couple of NFL preseason games tonight, one featuring the #1 pick in the NFL draft, Cam Ward, expected to get more play tonight against the Falcons in Atlanta after a really good first game. No Michael Penix for Atlanta. The other game, Chiefs-Seahawks, Sam Darnold expected to make his Seahawks debut, albeit preseason debut. Let's go out to a man who's going to be calling that first game tonight. Titans and Falcons. Charles Davis joining us from his hotel room. And you saw Ward firsthand last week. Led that touchdown drive. He was 5 of 8, 65 yards. Looked good. What's the plan tonight, and what do you want to see?
Chris, you're right. He did look good, especially on that second drive. And they did something that Tennessee didn't do much of last year, which was overcome a penalty on a drive. You know, normally if they got penalties and it knocked them back, it killed the drive. But last week, they were able to overcome it, get through it, and score. The expectation this week, talking with Brian Callahan, the head coach, they had joint practices with Atlanta, so they got 2 full days of work in. So they're expecting maybe 2 series tonight. But if the first series is like a 12-play drive, then that probably will be it for Cam Ward. And they just want to continue to see some progress, continue to see him on an upward trajectory. Did not have a good first day in the joint practice against Atlanta. Actually addressed the team, Chris, afterwards and told them, that's on me, that's my bad, and came back and had a second day. He's got a lot of maturity for a youngster, and they want to continue to see more of that on display.
Is it possible that this is the last time we'll see him in the preseason, or you think we'll see him again in the third game?
I think anything's possible, Chris. And the way that they're going about it with the first 2 games with just 2 series at each of them, I think that you're on track. That does continue to that kind of computes that they wouldn't play him in the third one to make sure he's ready for the opener. But he is a rookie. They were 3-14 last year. They want these guys to get some time. So there is a possibility they could go 1 series against Minnesota next week at home.
Okay, so Cam Ward could play in all 3 games, definitely playing multiple series tonight, unless it's a really long first drive. How about the other side, though? What do you think of the Falcons sitting Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins again?
I think we go back to the joint practice sessions. Kirk Cousins is a veteran. You know what he can do. And typically guys who have played as long as Kirk know how to come off the bench and play with minimal practice time or game speed time because they've done it so many times before. For Michael Penix, you have to have him for your season. It's bottom line. And because they had the 2 practices with with Tennessee, I think they feel like he got a lot of work in because, Chris, you know what a joint practice is like. You do everything in that. You throw the 1-on-1s. You throw the 7-on-7s. You throw the 11-on-11s. You throw the scrimmage work, you know, the full contact work, and you're out there. And in fact, you might remember they had a pretty good dust-up that Michael Penix was involved in practice 1, and they're having to counsel him on, hey, remember, you're our starting quarterback. You are not our enforcer. So that's probably why you're not going to see him in the second preseason game.
Well, on the other side, Cam Ward's going to have to be looking both ways because the Falcons drafted a pair of bookend pass rushers. They say they are racing to the quarterback, and they played quite a bit in the first game, about 40% of the defensive snaps. What have you seen so far from those guys?
Well, they were drafted for a specific reason, Chris, exactly what you talked about. Who's going to race to get to the quarterback? Because we said this ad nauseum about the Atlanta Falcons. They have not had a consistent sack guy off the edge since John Abraham. Yes, Vic Beasley had that monster 1-season, emergence for Atlanta, but never followed it up. Off the edge, they've been looking for their John Abraham since John Abraham was gone. And so it's taken too long. So they were drafted to get to the quarterback, to get after him as much as possible. They're going to play these guys in the preseason to get them up to speed quickly because remember, Terry Fontenot, the GM, made a big trade on draft night to trade back into the first round after drafting Jalen Walker to get James Pierce out of Tennessee. That means they're taking dead aim at trying to get to Tampa Bay right now. And Tampa Bay, of course, has won the division 4 straight years.
And again, Charles on the call for that one. The first game of 2 on the night, 7 Eastern time, late night out in Seattle. It's the Seahawks taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's the debut, at least the preseason debut for Sam Darnold, who had such a great season last year with the Vikings. How likely is it that he can recapture the magic of last year? I know he had more weapons over there in Minnesota. Yeah. It might be a little bit more of an uphill climb.
Definitely more of an uphill climb because remember, who was he throwing to in Minnesota? You're throwing to Justin Jefferson. You're throwing to Jordan Addison. You're throwing to Hawkinson at tight end. You've got Aaron Jones out of the backfield. Seattle is, now let's face it, DK Metcalf's no longer there. Tyler Lockett's no longer there. Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to be his number one target. So they've got to build up people around him as well, in addition to an offensive line that needed some work and is missing a key piece right now in the preseason due to injury. So a little bit more of an uphill climb for him. But last year's success, Chris, I think he gets to build off of that with his confidence. It's not just the contract now. I think Sam Darnold believes, hey, I was drafted in the first round and really high for a reason. I get to show that again. Maybe not in Minnesota, but now I can show it in Seattle.
Seahawks expected to play most starters, at least at the start of the game. On the other side, despite Patrick Mahomes throwing a touchdown pass in Week 1, Andy Reid says he's unlikely to play tonight. But Mahomes did say that he's loving what he's seeing from his new left tackle. Could end up being the best in all of football eventually. What do you make of the early returns on Josh Simmons?
Oh, fantastic, Chris, because he's ahead of schedule. I'm not sure any of us expected him to be out there this early because, remember, he was coming off the knee injury at Ohio State last year. And because of that knee injury, he goes at the end of the first round to Kansas City, steal for KC, instead of in the top 10 in the draft, which is where I think he would have gone if he'd been completely healthy. Now, last year's hope, who they drafted in the second round, Kingsley Suamataia, who's playing left guard. He was supposed to be their left tackle in their hope last year. It didn't work out for them. And you remember, Chris, they went through enough left tackles that you and I were getting calls at the end of the year to come in for tryouts. This year, getting Josh Simmons, getting him ahead of schedule off of injury, him playing so well early, they feel like they're headed towards solidifying the left tackle position. And in fact, now the right tackle position has become the place that we're looking at. All right. Jawan Taylor, who's been the incumbent, he's had his struggles with penalties and other things out there. They also brought in Jalen Moore from San Francisco, who they thought might be the left tackle. They're now battling it out at right tackle because Josh Simmons has played so well. If Patrick Mahomes' blind side is taken care of and the infusion of speed they have at wide receiver, we can get back to watching Kansas City throw the ball downfield once again, something we haven't seen much of in the past couple of seasons, Chris.
Charles Davis, thanks for joining us on the busy day that you're going to have in Atlanta, calling that Falcons-Titans game tonight at 7 Eastern time. Charles is going to be kicking us off September the 7th with a 1 Eastern time game featuring the Dolphins and the Colts on CBS. It's just around the corner.